let's get into this coaching matchup because there's two future Big Ten guys, at least for now. Jim Harbaugh, Kellen DeBoer. I mean, kind of two completely different pedigrees. I mean, you talk about Jim Harbaugh, he's royalty. I mean, his father was a big-time coach. He played quarterback at Michigan. He played quarterback in the NFL. Now, Jim Harbaugh did start out as a small school coach at San Diego, which was non-scholarship FCS football.
One big
at that level. That's coaching. And then he went to Stanford when they were terrible. One big. Now, Kellen DeBoer, you can have say in some ways similar type of coach. I mean, he started out literally at Sioux Falls at the NAIA level, and they became a national power to the point when he was an NAIA coach, they played North Dakota, who was an FCS team, and they beat them. Like, I mean, that's how Sioux Falls was. And he was playing against like Midland and Doane and Dana, Morningside. Like, so a lot of people in this region were familiar with Kellen DeBoer because he got Sioux Falls so good that they are now a Division II.
Yep. I mean, one of the marks of a great coach is someone you can identify who's won everywhere he or she has been.
Like Brian Kelly.
Yeah, everywhere they've been, they win. Brian Kelly's a good example. I mean, Urban Meyer's a great example. They just win. It doesn't matter where they're at. They win. And DeBoer and Harbaugh are those guys. They're those guys. I mean, and you're right. Harbaugh. It's funny to hear you say Harbaugh's royalty after he was suspended for 6 games this year, which everybody forgets almost. I mean, it doesn't even come up hardly.
It's like a speed bump.
It's odd the way this country, the one thing that you learn from all this is this country forgives you quickly and it moves on. And they full on Michigan have embraced the bad boy thing, though. They don't seem even like bad boys, but they kind of embrace it.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
they leaned into it all the way.
They leaned hard into it.
And it worked for them. I mean, it was a team that probably needed motivation considering what their schedule was this year. Yeah. Like they were 30-point favorites almost every single week. And that gave them motivation to play ticked off. And it actually, I think, probably vaulted them to where they are right now.
They weren't threatened very often. They were threatened by Alabama. They're down in the second half. And McCarthy, if you think about McCarthy, JJ didn't make that many big plays in that game. His defense was the big thing. 5 sacks in the first half, 6 sacks overall, and that's a bear. The defense, remember when they came in here, when we looked out on the field, when they came into Lincoln and we looked out on the field, and it would look different. You're like, oh, that's different. That looks different.
Well, then you look at Washington.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're an Indiana fan, what are you thinking right now? Because you had DeBoer as your offensive coordinator, and you had your best season really in recent history.
Yep.
And Michael Penix was your quarterback.
Yeah.
And those were your two guys. And you had the wrong. I mean, now you look at it, devil's advocate, you probably had the wrong guy. I mean, Tom Allen's a good coach, but you had Kellen DeBoer at Indiana.
Yeah.
In the wings there. Then he goes to Fresno. And I remember, and we talked about this off air, when Nebraska was kind of shopping for a coach.
Okay.
You would get people from South Dakota that were familiar with DeBoer that emailed us.
Oh, yeah.
When he was at Fresno, like, why aren't they looking at this guy?
And what would we do?
And you dismissed it.
Pretty much dismissed it. Why would they hire Kellen?
And there was one guy who was he adamantly messaged me 3 or 4 times, DeBoer. And, you know, I'm not making the hire at Nebraska. We're not making the hires here, but
we just
smart people that know his body of work knew that he was going to be a star.
Yeah, we just have to come clean on that, though. I never took it seriously. I didn't. That's terrible. What
he's done with Washington's offense, I think that's what we thought Scott Frost would have been able to do to Nebraska's program and offense. Just an offensive mastermind that elevates the program to a national level and a leader. And that's the difference. Frost didn't have the structure and the leadership experience, where DeBoer has led programs as a head coach from the lowest level to now the highest level.
Yeah, and you just look at his work with quarterbacks. I mean, Michael Penix was not that Michael Penix after DeBoer left when he was there at Indiana. I mean, he regressed, and then he went to Washington. All of a sudden,
he got hurt too. He blew out a knee, but he got hurt.
But still, I mean, like there was an immediate correlation.
Yeah,
when he was working with DeBoer, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the country.
Absolutely,
and you saw that this year.
The motioning of that offense, like, it's just a thing of beauty to watch the pre-snap motions they do, because your eyes as a defense, you're following all, and then someone gets open every time.
Well,
every time.
Their ability to, you know, they're a tempo offense, but they don't live and die on tempo. Like, they can grind the ball out and they can run the ball with physicality. And I think that's kind of the element that separates them, especially in the Pac-12. It puts them in that same boat with Oregon, probably, to where It's all that kind of run and gun around the conference. But then when it comes to winning time and you can just play power football, they have that ability. And I think that's what separates them.
I think it got a lot of people's attention, the game against Oregon in the Pac-12 title game.
Got my attention.
A lot of people assumed Oregon was going to win the game.
I did.
They're almost a double-digit favorite. And a lot of people, a lot of people like, no, Oregon's too physical. I mean, Oregon's like a big, ready-made Big Ten team. Washington's not. They're not. Now they don't play their pass defenses. They're very vulnerable, which shouldn't hurt them too bad against Michigan. They are a vulnerable pass defense, but that won't hurt them. I don't know. The matchup's really interesting. If Michigan can rush the passer like they did against Bama, that would obviously help. I just don't know what Michigan. I'd have to look at Michigan's corners and see if they match up with those receivers.
Washington also has the best offensive line in the country.
Yeah, they did. They won
are the most experienced.
Well, they won the Joe Moore.
They won the Joe Moore Award. Yeah, so I mean, they were awarded as the best offensive line in the country.
Yeah, Penix is hard to get to.
He is hard to get to. That's the offensive line. I mean, so yeah, when you talk about it, I kind of almost like Washington in this matchup. I mean,
the spread's only 4.5.
Michigan,
and I thought it'd be over 7. I'll be honest. So really? To see it at 4.5. Well, I mean, think about we just talked about how Oregon on a neutral field was almost double digits.
Almost double digit, yeah. Yeah, again, I just have to look at the matchup. I'd have to look at the Michigan's corners. I'd like to look to see how Michigan matches up with those great receivers at Washington. And they're going to have to. Penix is interesting to me because he doesn't leave the pocket that much. In fact, there was a stat earlier this year where he only left the pocket on 11% of his throws. It's really a low number if you think about it. So can they get to him? I mean, can they make it rough for him?
Is he a first rounder, Rob Penix?
He's got injury history and he's old. So, I mean, that's probably going to hurt him. But, I mean, what if he goes and throws for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns in the championship game?
Just go through them. Caleb Williams, Drake May, the LSU quarterback. Daniels. And then, I've seen McCarthy for Bo
Nix would be up there.
Yeah, Bo Nix would definitely be in that conversation. But, the first 3 look pretty cut and dry to me.
Yeah, for now. There's always that late spring mover, but
yeah.
What I like about Penix, though, is he's not a runner. Like a lot of college guys get away with a lot because they run. You can't run on the pros. Like Penix stays in the pocket. He gets rid of the ball.
God, I would say to an NFL team, here goes Sipple advising an NFL team. This is interesting. Don't overthink it on Penix. I mean,
those throws he were making, like there's NFL quarterbacks that can't make those throws.
Right.
I mean, just frozen ropes, 35 yards across the field on a dime.
Especially some of the backups you're seeing in the league right now. My God. I mean, Penix was like Warren Moon.
Well, look at Browning, the former Washington quarterback, and look what Zach Taylor's been able to get out of him with the Bengals.
Looks pretty good.
Penix is a better quarterback than Browning.
So, yeah.
Browning was a playoff quarterback.
Yeah, he was good. He was good. And he's done well at Cincinnati. Yeah. But anyway.
It's the injuries probably that's going to be the big deterrent. I mean, the fact that he's already suffered a significant knee injury like that.
And upper body. Yeah, upper body.
Yeah, so that's troublesome.